Good evening, good afternoon, one and all. Do let us know if I'm too loud or my guest is too quiet or my guest is too loud and I'm too quiet. Hopefully, we're a bit of a consistent level this time round. But joining me on the stream today, in fact, good to see you once again, Dan. You can also tell us a little bit more how you're ground hopping around the UK and all round good egg and season ticket holder. How are you, Dan?
Cheers. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on again. It's always a pleasure. Um, yeah, so obviously doing the '92 league rounds with Dad. Went up to Bradford yesterday for their game against Mansfield. Bit of a trek, so still sort of recovering from that. But yeah, no, another one done. Bradford won 2-0. So I'm at 85 at the moment. I think Dad's three behind. Paying the you know what, so it's going to delay me a little bit, but that's absolutely fine. We'll get there, and we're heading off to Salford next in their game against Oldham back into January. So yeah, hopefully that won't be 0-0.
That's some effort, actually, Dan. You know, what's 85 out of 92? I mean, some of those have chopped and changed over the last couple of years, but haven't they,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, definitely, exactly that. I mean, obviously, I guess at this time, even though I still call it 92, it's 91 at the moment with sort of the sad demise
Yeah.
of Berry. But I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm not entirely sure whether, in terms of the pyramid, whether they're going to bring another one back next season, because obviously that's going to have a knock-on effect. But yeah, no, I imagine it will still be 91 or 92 there or thereabouts when we get down to the final couple.
I put my phone on silent. There it goes. It's typical.
So yeah,
And let's just prove that we are live, folks. Again, do let us know if there's any audio issues. If I'm too loud or Dan's too quiet, just let us know so we can balance it up a little bit as well. Let's say hello to some of people, some of our regulars in our comments now. Good afternoon, Kieran. Hello, Charlie. Good to see you. You came up to us and saw us on Saturday. Good to see you there. And hello, Leo. Thanks for your comments. And actually, I guess I just want to say my apologies. In fact, some of you guys, the subscribers that kind of join us a lot regularly, quite often, and a few of you asked, where was the Chelsea review? Where was the Palace preview? I mean, to be honest, at this time of the year, the fixtures come thick and fast, and you've also got to try and squeeze time to spend it with your loved ones. And quite frankly, for the best of times, this football content, it absolutely consumes my life, and I commit my time over it rather than at home. So I guess it was only fair for me to kind of relax a little bit, take a couple of days off, and spend it with them, to be honest. And quite honestly, sometimes I do struggle to keep up, despite kind of scaling back the content this season. Right. Anyway, I guess we'll use this opportunity then to kind of review in brief the Chelsea victory on Boxing Day, Dan. Fantastic way to cap Christmas. One of the best team performances Ralph had witnessed. And, it's not often that we say it was a comfortable victory over Chelsea, and they rarely threatened, and it was a long overdue win against a top six opposition.
yeah, no, exactly that. I mean, sort of going into the game, I wasn't too sure what to expect, but fair play. Ralph's obviously had his critics this season, rightfully so. In fairness, some of his tactical decisions have been, I think, questionable to say the least. But that day he got it absolutely bang on. He set the team up fantastic. They kept a great shape throughout the 90 minutes. Played on the counter, and to be honest, if we'd have been more clinical, probably could have rode out even more comfortable winners. In all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, there's a comment here. In fact, Nathan jumps in with he went to the Chelsea game and the performance from Obafemi and Shea really impressed me. I've completely changed my opinion on Shea, and I think and recognise that he needs more game time.
Yeah, no, completely agree with that. Sort of going back a couple of months ago, I remember talking to a chap in the pub, and he was sort of, mentioning the fact that he thought he was just a championship player out of his depth. I never really thought that. I think he's a good player. I think you obviously hasn't had the luck. Thinking back to when he was sort of starting at the start of the season, could have quite easily had a goal, if memory serves, at Sheffield United. I think he hit the woodwork
Mm.
maybe even a couple of times. But he just hadn't had the breaks. But it's all around play, his hold up, and he's so young as well. I really do think we've got a good player then, and he just needs to get that first goal, really.
Yeah, I mean, it just needs a bit of luck for it to go in off his, backside, off his shin, a fortuitous deflection, if you like, as well. But lots of eyebrows raised that, in fact, for the Chelsea game, Ralph decided to rest Danny Ings. and introduced Obafemi and Shea Adams from the start, and both, I guess, Ings returned to the team against Crystal Palace with Buffal also replacing Stuart Armstrong, who I thought had a great game at Stamford Bridge too. A little unlucky to be benched against Palace.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I mean, I don't know whether that's sort of down to, sort of the thick and fast nature of the festive period. Maybe, they use so much technology these days. Maybe they sort of, saw that he was one that was more in need of a rest. But yeah, no, I genuinely think we look a better side with him in the team. I think he definitely sort of, I think he makes our passing game sort of more fluid. I think he bridges the gap between midfield and the strikers. And yeah, I think that's sort of a lot of eyebrows were raised when we brought him in. Just a lot of people saying he's just come from a farmers league. But no, I think I definitely would like to see more of him. Even last season, I thought he was great in sort of spells.
Yeah, I mean, Stuart Armstrong had a great influence in that team goal, which led to Redmond scoring, albeit off. They claim it came off Kante's toe, but Edward jumps in here and says Stuart Armstrong was the most underrated player at Saints. He has to be a starter.
Yeah, I completely agree with that comment. I think really, in terms of a player that sort of goes under the radar, thinking back, probably similar to Stephen Davis in his time at the club. Another one that was, a lot of players, a lot of people rather wouldn't sort of pick him out as a star player, but you noticed when he was absent, and he was just fantastic. And another quality player that, yeah, similar to sort of Adams, I think needs to see the team sheet more often.
Yeah, and Nathan jumps in and says Jacob Potter would be the long-term replacement for Shane Long. Now, let's extend on that, in fact, because there's a bit of speculation about Shane Long's future. He's yet to sign a contract. His contract is up at the end of the season. What would you do with Shane Long? Would you give him a year extension?
I actually think as it's a tough one. I think I'd part ways now. I like Shane Long for what he brings to the team. He's been a really good servant. But as a striker, he doesn't get the goals that we need. Don't get me wrong. As I say, he puts in a shift every time. He does bring others into play. But I can see him sort of going down the football pyramid. Maybe ended up in the Championship. And I think with Shea Adams, you've got a young, bright player. He almost brings something different, like sort of something we've lacked since the Pala days. Really, he's big burly striker who, if we need to change it up and go long, he can. I think he could be a real presence in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think Shea had been given the tactics to hold up the ball, win the headers, and he showed that at Chelsea. Great, spirit, in fact, both at Chelsea and against the Palace game. Lots of contrasting opinions jumping in on this Shane Long topic here. Kieran says we should give him a new contract after these last few performances, despite his injury. He doesn't want to see him leave in the summer. And McKeesey, hello, all the way from the other side of the world. Good to have you with us once again. He said he'd give him an extension. His pressing is critical for the system.
Yeah, no, that is a fair comment, and I can't really argue with that. Obviously, he is an absolute athlete. You look at the way that he jumps; he can cover more ground than probably most, to be honest. But I'm just sort of thinking bigger picture. Maybe there is a possibility of giving a year extension, but he's not getting any younger. And I just really, to be honest, like to look towards the future, and if it meant sort of between, I mean, you could potentially keep Shane Long to bring him on tired defences. But looking, towards the future, I'd really like to see Adams more in the team more prominently.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. And Morgan also raises the point over Yoshida. He says we should let Yoshida go in the summer. Now, I've got to say here, Yoshida's been a great club servant, a great club man, but he's never really put a staple into that first team. And I guess there's a reason why nobody has come in from over the years.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I remember when he first joined the club back in, was it 2012?
Mm.
He sort of played a fair bit. Was so error prone. Since then, in fairness to him, he has remodeled his game, and sort of in the more recent years, he's been good for us. But he's not seeing the game time. But at the same time, I think if we are to let him go, we certainly need to look at bringing another player of that position in because we're quite thin in that area.
Yeah, lots of comments again firing in for about Shane Long. But right, let's get back to the Crystal Palace, I guess, review in this part of the pod, if you like. And then in some respects, we were, I guess you could say, ahead of the game going into the Palace game. 6 points either side of Christmas, and the objectives for this game against Palace weren't quite as strict, were they?
No, no, not at all. I think sort of looking at the fixtures before they happened, a lot of people really would have looked at that one as the one that we needed, to guarantee 3 points out of. But obviously, with the win at Chelsea, that changed somewhat. So Palace, typical away performance, similar to what we do in a sense, sort of set up pretty defensively, trying to catch us out in the counter. And it worked for the most part. They frustrated us. I don't know whether it was sort of almost a game too far with the brilliant display at Chelsea, but I think ultimately at the end I was happy with the point because I thought they'd done a job on us and they were going to get away with a perfect 1-0 away display.
And they did try their best to frustrate Saints. And I guess it was mostly a dire first half. A few highlights to talk about, and I guess we're scraping the barrel a little bit in terms of chances on goal. But Palace, I think as you say, they came with a game plan to sit in deep, hit on the counter attack with the speed of Zaha and Ayew, who recently on the score sheet one of the. I guess one of the goal of the months recently as well. But I guess if we get to chances away from the net, and one thing I've picked up a couple of things. Højbjerg, he had his shirt ripped in the first half. And do you think Saints were scrimping the pennies at Kings Lynn Market this Christmas? Because it definitely wasn't an authentic shirt, that's for sure.
No, it didn't look like it. I don't really know what that was all about. Obviously, the money in the club's been spent elsewhere. I don't know. They must have had some sort of Christmas meal, because it's quite bad when you have to get down to that state of affairs.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Rob jumps in here and says Palace were quite a petulant, bad-tempered bunch. And you can see from the first minute, I think it was Miholovic that took a grab hold of Højbjerg's shirt, but basically ripped it off his back.
Yeah,
And I think Palace fans are doing their best. And it is that time of year, pantomime season. Every time James Ward-Prowse touched the ball, he was being booed because last year, of course, he wound up Zaha to get him sent off. And Zaha, if we look at him, he was triggered after the very first minute. He was throwing his arms around, throwing his toys at the pram when he was swarmed by Saints defenders every single time.
yeah. I don't know what it is. I mean, it seems to be every time we play. Obviously, Palace, especially now after that incident last season, he's clearly not forgotten it. Palace worship him like he's some sort of god, which I don't quite understand. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he left them once. He's obviously come back. He'll go again because he is class. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, what's he 26, 27? He's acting on a pitch looking probably the most immature out of most of them, to be honest. So I think that may sort of put potential suitors off, because although he's got the quality, he can be a ticking time bomb and a red card waiting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we saw that firsthand last season, and of course he had an influence in Crystal Palace putting the ball in the back of the net. Of course, it was called back for VAR. He's been one of our best defenders this season, and the irony is that he was ruled offside, but I guess it must have been a hair or a fraction or something like that. But they put the ball in, but it also exposed some of our defensive frailties, and we were chanting VAR as one of our own.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hate to sort of dig someone out, but I'm going to anyway. VAR has probably been a hell of a lot more effective than Cedric has been, for
Hmm.
the most part. Don't get me wrong, that particular game, it wasn't his worst display, but yet again, that came down his side. And in all fairness, yeah, okay, Zaha is he's a class player. But Cedric wants to give it the big one about being a Euros winner way back when. Um, and he's come out and said he wants to leave. I mean, Cedric, he's very hit and miss. He said he wants to leave. I'd sooner see. I know Valor, I think he's been out with an illness, but I'd sooner sort of see him there, even if he's going to make mistakes. He's young, but he's the future, and I think he'd be a hell of a lot more committed.
Yeah, interesting point here. You've just brought up. Cedric did admit a couple of weeks ago, about a month or so ago, that he will be leaving in the summer. And Kieran notes here he didn't perform well against Palace. Do you reckon we'll get a fee for him in January? Now, let me extend on that. Firstly, on your comment on Jan Valery, illness. I'm not sure how much I believe about that. You can only be ill for, a short amount of time. There must be some sort of hell of a virus that he's got, some sort of mystery illness that allows him to go out into town every, Friday, Saturday night, whatever. Don't know how much you can believe about those tabloids, but whatever. I mean, Cedric, I think is I think it's best thing to do is probably try and get a fee for him this January rather than just getting him sold. I guess moving to another club for nothing in the summer.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I don't know whether Sutton United are in the market for a right back, but yeah, I'll drive them there myself, to be honest. So, but yeah, I mean that's the issue. I'd happily part ways now, but I mean I don't know. I mean he must have some agent because I can't really think who's going to be looking at his sort of tape in recent weeks and think that's the missing piece of our team. So yeah, no, it'll be very interesting to see what happens there.
Lots of comments firing in about Cedric. Good to see you, Rob. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's been everybody's been critical of Cedric recently. Let's to be honest, let me give him a bit of credit. He did play well at Chelsea. I'm not sure how much I believe about how Valerie's not ready. I mean, he broke through last season, some fantastic performances there, getting on the score sheet a couple of times, helping us last season. But I don't know how much to believe about this illness about Valerie. So I think something's going on behind the scenes. Nathan jumps in and says he's just lazy. Doesn't bother to run back on it when he loses the ball. And just one more from McKeesey here. We should send Ramsey and Vokins on loan or give him a chance to back up Valle because we're so short on fullbacks. And I think McKeesey's highlighted a fantastic point there, is that our number one target should be a fullback. And then for me, if we can get somebody that can play left and right in January, ideal.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're crying out for at the moment. I mean, see, we let go of Target in the summer. Looking back now, was that the wisest decision? He's, don't get me wrong, I liked him. He's not the most brilliant fullback you'll ever see, but he can come and do a job at the end of the day. And at the end of ultimately, we haven't brought someone in to sort of cover his loss. So it's certainly an area we need to target.
Yeah, a couple of comments suggesting Mbabu from Celtic from the Lamb Source. And here we are. Morgan says that we're after the Genk right back, Myler, I think his name is. But we'll just see how those develop in the next coming days. Again, there you go. Kieran says, yeah, bring in Myler. Competition for Jan Valery. Cedric isn't consistent. Myler can play left and right. That's great. Thanks for doing our research for us, Kieran. Right, back to our incidents then at Crystal Palace. I mean, James Tompkins opens the scoring with a header. It's a sort of a cheeky little chip over the wall. And I've got to say that the defending here is a bit suspect. And, for Stevens, for all of his credit recently, getting on the score sheet against Villa, great performance against Chelsea, I think he needs to be stronger in this. He needs to get in front of James Tompkins and attack that ball.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment. Don't get me wrong, obviously Stevens has come in and done a really good job compared to sort of, previous performances that have been pretty error laden. But there, yeah, if he wants to, continue in that position, then he, as you said, he needs to do better in those situations because in the Premier League, those are always going to present themselves. And yeah, he wasn't strong enough there. It was too easy.
Yeah, I mean, as we noted earlier, Palace wanted to sit in, hold on for the win, and they tried their best. But we introduced Gineppo, and we've seen him with this mystery kind of injury recently. Not as mysterious as Sofiane Boufal's stubbed toe, but when he came on the pitch, he changed the game. I've got to say, I mean, Palace had no idea how to deal with him.
Yeah, I mean, he is that sort of X factor that we've got. We missed it whilst he's been out. But obviously early in the season, he came up with some big goals for us, obviously Brighton and Sheffield United, and he has got that sort of layer of unpredictability. I think a lot of another thing that may play into it is the fact that obviously he's new to the Premier League, so other teams haven't really been able to get a lot of footage and scouting of him, obviously in the Premier League yet. And he can sort of just out of nothing produce, and yeah, he was a complete live wire and really changed the game. We looked a lot better with him on the field.
Yeah, we won, an advanced kind of free kicks just off the edge of the box. And, Gineppo, for all his worth, it wasn't him that kind of, managed to source a goal. And it was, I guess, ironically, it was a poor back pass Martin Kelly trying to pass it back to a keeper. Danny Ings pounces on the end of it to equalise, and his 12th for the season.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, as you say, they'd been so disciplined for the majority, and then sort of one, momentary lapse in concentration, and it sort of undid all their hard work. But yeah, Danny Ings at the moment, there was a sort of chance earlier in the game where sort of Redmond seemed to be through, and he elected to sort of pass rather than shoot himself. Probably should have had a shot himself, but I guess with the form that Danny Ings in, and confidence, he just thought, I'll give give it up for him to do the job. But yeah, Danny Ings is, as everyone knows, absolutely on fire, and I think he can consider himself certainly up for the shout of being selected for England, because yeah, he's finishing something else.
I think up until, I guess, Man United played their game later that night, only one man has scored more in the Premier League this season, Jamie Vardy. It turns out Aubameyang equalised, I guess scored again for Arsenal, and Rashford has scored again for Man United at the weekend. But lots of love for Gineppo in the comments from Joe here, back to his best at Palace. There we go, Nathan Moose Gineppo, love it. And big shout out to Ward-Prowse from Rob here. His brilliant 60-yard pass, which set Gineppo on his way. And to be honest, Ward-Prowse, there was a great statistic. I think he'd run or covered the most amount of ground in the Premier League this season.
No, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. In all fairness, I think going back a month or so ago, a lot of people were questioning him, thinking, other than his set pieces, what does he really bring to the team? But recently, over the Christmas period, he's definitely been one of our strongest players. Really putting in shifts, constantly tracking back and helping his teammates out when we've, looked like we're in trouble. And in fairness, particularly that Palace game, his set pieces were just sublime. Every single one carried a threat, and yeah, he was immense that day.
Sometimes it gets unthanked, James Ward-Prowse. A lot of criticism heading towards him, a few months ago, but he's so important for the team now. He's almost playing that sort of deep line playmaker position, if you like. Bringing the balls left, right, threat from corners, threat from free kicks as well. And I guess we could have easily sort of snatched the game against Crystal Palace had it not been for Vicente Higuita, Palace's goalkeeper, made some great saves to deny us a victory.
Yeah, very much so. Obviously the Ward-Prowse free kick was a great save. Can't fault him for that. Fair play. As you said, we could have quite easily nicked it. Obviously, we just needed to get that equaliser, which we did. But after that, it only really looked like there was going to be one winner. But I think on the basis of the whole game, I'm pretty chuffed with the point, especially with the 6 points in the previous two games.
So, I mean, what's the target then for New Year's Day? What have you made of Jose Mourinho as they head to St Mary's?
Oof, it's tough. They've been indifferent. Obviously, got off to a really good start, but they went to Norwich on Saturday, and so they could have quite easily, probably should have lost that game. VAR, as we were discussing before we came on air, sort of, well, effectively screwed Pookie over, because that was, everyone knows that was a good goal, shouldn't have been disallowed. But yeah, no, they're in a weird sort of mode at the moment, Spurs, because obviously they look pretty weak at the back. I certainly think we could expose them. Hopefully, it'd be sort of an ideal time for maybe Adams to look to get his first goal, give those two centre halves a hard time of it. Obviously, there's the Eriksen situation as well. Is he going to stay or leave in January? So yeah, I think there is, I think there's potential for us to get a result, whether that be a draw or a win. But I fancy us to get something.
Yeah, Rob has highlighted here the dodgy defence of Spurs, and to be honest, that was highlighted again, a calamitous kind of own goal at Norwich at the weekend. And I mean, Aurier, let's highlight him for a moment. Of course, we don't watch too much of him, but so unpredictable, I guess, some of Tottenham's defending at the moment, and hopefully we need to be on our toes to kind of capitalise on any mistakes or erratic kind of movements from the Tottenham defence come New Year's Day.
Yeah. I hope we're able to. Obviously, you highlighted Aurier, and going back to the game, the reverse fixture at their new place. He got sent off, and he's strange. He's a strange one. Obviously, he's got quality when he wants to to turn up, but some of his decision making is mind boggles, to be honest with you. And I think he's only really playing because obviously they're also thin in those positions, to be honest, especially with injuries. And obviously Trippier went in the summer to Atleti. So yeah, I certainly think, especially with the way Ings at the moment, and we've got some strength out wide, then we can harm them.
So a couple of comments here. Firstly, for Gineppo, we should start him on the left, attacking Aurier. I think you meant Aurier, not Auteur, as per film studies. For those that are studying that sort of thing. But yeah, Aurier seems to be a bit unpredictable at times as well. And Joe goes as far as saying that we should play the same lineup as Saturday, but Armstrong in for Buffal. Use him and Gineppo as impact subs. Neither us or Spurs can keep clean sheets.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Buffal first half, I thought he looked pretty good. Second half, off the boil completely, which was a shame. Every time he sort of went forward with the ball, he got to the point where he'd take his man on and then lose possession. Obviously, Gineppo came on and he added that, sort of extra level that we were missing. You could take his man on, beat him, produce a shot or a cross. So, yeah, no, I think especially Gineppo, he's looked good. So it'd be nice to see him get more game time.
Yeah, and it'd be, as Nathan comments here, interesting to see Gazaniga back at St Mary's too. Left under, I guess, Pochettino's influence, signing for them a few years ago now. Rarely had a bit of game time at Southampton. Still a very young player at the time and third choice at the time too. And he's kind of taken his chance in goal whilst Hugo Lloris has been injured.
Yeah, exactly that. Fair play to him. I mean, when he was at Saints, every time he sort of came in for whether we had a starter out injured or a cup game, on the whole, I think a lot of people thought he's got no chance of breaking the first team lineup on a regular basis. Made a lot of errors. In fairness, he was young though. He's learning the game. Perhaps we signed him from Gillingham, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not, way back when. But yeah, no, he's been given his chance. But then it's a difficult environment because obviously Spurs' expectations are a lot different to ours. And I've heard sort of there were boo boys after the game against Norwich. A lot of the Spurs fans sort of calling in on the BBC 606 and that, saying that he's not good enough, not quality enough for them. So it's whether or not he can handle that pressure.
Yeah, and as Edward notes here, I mean, to be honest, a lot of you guys have taken a lot of my notes. You must be reading my documents here or something. But as Edward says, it's going to be a very tough game. And without Son playing, if we can execute a top game plan like Chelsea, I have faith. And Son serving his third game of his suspension, sent off a week or so ago. But he's not that type of player.
No, obviously not. I think they've obviously got someone dressed up in a Christmas Son suit, giving the poor guy a bad name. But yeah, no, I mean, as just forget my Saints loyalty for a minute. As just a fan of football, he's a remarkable player. One of my favourite in world football. So yeah, massive late get my words out. Late Christmas present to see the fact that he's gonna miss that game.
So let's talk lineups and predictions then, Dan, and then we'll give you some goal of the month and our player of the month nominees after this. And so fire in your score predictions for Tottenham on New Year's Day and fire in your lineups too as well. So some have already suggested Armstrong to replace Buffon in the starting lineup, but what would you do? Obviously, lots of games at this time of the year, and perhaps one eye on the FA Cup. Huddersfield a few days later could be a chance for some of the fringe players to set that game, have an eye on the FA Cup instead of the Premier League.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I think that is what he will do. Obviously, squad rotation. I would imagine you'll probably see sort of against Huddersfield. Obviously the keeper rested, that sort of thing. Maybe some youth brought in. I saw. I think Smallbone was on the bench the other day.
Yeah.
So he's one that might get a run out in the first team on Saturday.
Oops.
Oh, sorry about that.
And we're back in the room.
But yeah, no, I just thought I'd have a little, breather, get a beer. But yeah, no, I think sort of it's probably, although I wouldn't want the same back four, I think it will be the same back four as previous games. Obviously, Cedric at right back, obviously keepers McCarthy, Stevens. Been much maligned in the past, but you can't criticise him on the whole. I know he had a bit of an iffy moment, as we discussed earlier, but he has been much better. So he obviously, I think he stays there too. Bednarek as well. I like him a lot. He's not the finished article. I was saying to a friend in the pub just the other day, I only wish that he sort of was with almost come along a bit earlier and been paired with either Fonte
Mm.
or Van Dijk. Two quality players that could have sort of eased him in a little, and he could have fed off their experience. Because I think with that we'd see a real sort of change in him, and he'd go from strength to strength. And then obviously Bertrand at left back. I think he's looked lively over recent weeks, especially going forward. He's been really putting in some energetic performances, sort of bombing down that left and getting on the overlap. So yeah, I'm sure he'll continue there as well.
Okay, so midfield then. So a lot of people suggesting a midfield duo of Højbjerg and James Ward-Prowse, but this is where it gets interesting, where you kind of swap it around a little bit. McKesey's gone as far as saying Højbjerg, James Ward-Prowse, Gineppo, Armstrong with Redmond and Ings up front. Latterly, we've got Morgan suggesting Højbjerg, Ward-Prowse, Redmond, Armstrong, Ings, and Adams. Lamb Sauce has gone as far as saying we've got Højbjerg. We've got Valerie in there as well. That's strange.
Oh.
I don't know how ill he is, but we'll find out come Wednesday. I'm losing what track of day it is. It's that type of year. We're in a bit of limbo, But anyway, Lamb Sauce has gone. Højbjerg, Ward-Prowse, Buffal twice. Okay. Can we get away with that? Got cloning machine.
Got his brother.
Ings and Adams up front. So Lamb Sauce, let us know if it's Redmond in for Buffal or Armstrong for Buffal, one of those. So Rob has gone as far as saying Højbjerg, Ward-Prowse, Armstrong, Redmond, Ings, and Adams. So a theme running here where I think we're going to go with Højbjerg, Ward-Prowse as the two, and I think I will suggest let's go with Armstrong and Redmond because I think Armstrong probably offers a little bit more physicality in the midfield, to drop back a bit more defensive duties. Buffal, Gineppo, great players on the day. They've got that stardust to turn players inside out, but impact players, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think I'd agree with you there. As much as I'd like to see Gineppo, I think at the moment, maybe he's one of those players that sort of, late in the game, if the game's tight, bring him on as we did the other day against Palace. And then maybe sort of give him a full run out on Saturday in the Cup. I'll see if he can do it over 90 minutes as well. Then maybe that's something to consider going forward. But yeah, no, I think especially against a team with so much quality as Tottenham do, I think Armstrong's the sort of player you want to sort of keep our shape, keep the link between obviously midfield and strikers. And yeah, no, I'd certainly like to see Armstrong starting on Wednesday.
Okay, so last time we played Spurs at St Mary's, a comeback, in fact, for the first time in God knows how long. One down after Kane scores early on, Valerie on the score sheet, and then James Ward-Prowse masterful free kick from the edge of the box. So, score prediction, is it going to be the same then, Dan? Let's go Rob's prediction of 2-1. Kieran's also gone 2-1, again with a masterclass from Ward-Prowse. Nathan has gone 2-2. And here's one bit left field. Bobby Mack goes 3-2 with Ings and Bednarek on the score sheet. Kane scores twice.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's tough. My head's sort of saying a draw. But no, I sort of with them coming through, if I was going to go for a Saints win, I was leaning towards 2-1. I think I said that last season as well, from memory. And yeah, no, I'll go for that. I think Spurs, as I said, they're indifferent. We have looked a lot better in recent weeks, so I think we'll certainly, go for it, especially at home. Atmosphere against Palace was a lot better. There was a lot less negativity. People not sort of getting on the team when we start going backwards with the ball. So that was good to see. So yeah, no, I think we can sort of catch them off guard and come away with the 3 points.
Yeah, and I mean, if we do manage to get the 3 points, that puts us well and truly away from the relegation zone, a huge cushion at that point, and it puts us right in the middle of the pack.
Yeah. I mean, it's so tight this year. Obviously, apart from sort of the top four, you look at the rest. It's staggering how tight the league is this season. A few wins, we could be looking up sort of 8th, 9th, 10th. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason why not. We're in a great vein of form. I was really worried for us a few weeks back, but I was watching Match of the Day a couple of episodes ago, and they obviously mentioned after our win against Chelsea, the analysts there didn't think we'll have any problems now. And I think, as long as we sort of get a bit of consistency, keep racking up the points, I think there are certainly teams below us that will struggle a lot more than we do. And I think we'll finish pretty comfortably in the end.
Yeah, I think the target was between 9th and 14th, and the win would certainly give us a bit of confidence and, a chance for some of those first teamers to have a little breather against Huddersfield. And we're back in at the Leicester game 2 weeks later. Just quickly here, a comment from Kieran. You must have a short memory, mate, but we beat Spurs last season in a 2-1 victory. So he says we haven't beaten Spurs at home in the last 2 seasons. I suppose haven't beaten us at home. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
My mistake. There you go. Okay, right. Bonuses then. End of this episode. Goal of the month and player of the month nominations. So let's start with our player goal of the month. I've got 5 shortlisted on my notes here. Do let us know if you think of anything else in the comments. But let's open it up then. Open it up to the floor with Danny Ings' header against Norwich at the start of the month. Danny Ings' goal against Newcastle. He's running, it holds off the defender, slots it away, beats Dubravka quite coolly. Danny Ings again, but this time his second at Aston Villa, his swivel and shot, pouncing on that back pass from the Aston Villa defender. And the 2 goals against Chelsea, Obafemi's left foot shot, dropping the shoulder, leaving Rudiger for dead. Top corner, goalkeeper no chance. And Redmond against Chelsea, the fantastic team goal.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go with the last one. I think obviously individual quality, I'd probably be leaning towards Obafemi. Obviously, just a kid really in effect, coming into the team, not played a lot. Incredible finish to have that confidence and awareness, just pick that up and smash it. But I mean, team goal, you don't see goals like that. Sort of the amount of passes we strung together. I know a lot of people, well, quite a few people mentioned the fact that Kante sort of had the final touch and the link of passes, but for me, that doesn't detract from it. It was a quality goal and it deserved to be rounded off in the way that it was.
Yeah, I mean, a fantastic team goal. It reminds me a bit like the goal from the 1980s, as I think it was against Liverpool. Mick Shannon finishes off that great move. It does the rounds every year. I think everybody, in fact, in this sequence of this goal for Chelsea, almost everybody had a touch of the ball.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And I mean, and the amount of Saints games, both you and I and everyone attends, you just don't see that. It was sort of one of those occasions where, you just had to be there. Really, it was remarkable. And yes, one that will certainly live long in the memory.
Yeah, it's too close to call in the comments. So it's going Obafemi, Redmond, Obafemi, Redmond, Obafemi, Redmond. But I think I tell you what, we'll give the casting vote on our Twitter feed later on today. We'll run it until tomorrow. We'll see what happens. So I think it's too close to call on this show. But I think you say Redmond there, Dan?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would lean towards Redmond's.
Okay.
So the goal itself, I think Obafemi. But yeah, I just the build up to the goal, the Redmond's goal was just fantastic. Can't overlook it for that reason.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll give the casting vote to our Twitter followers. Okay, player of the month then. I've got 4 shortlisted here. You're welcome to throw in your names on the comments as well, so get involved. So I've got Jack Stevens here. He's come on leaps and bounds, I guess, this month. Fantastic performances against Aston Villa, composed against Chelsea. Albeit a little sort of mistake, if you like, wasn't strong enough for the Tompkins goal, but we've seen him improve kind of dramatically in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Nathan Redmond. He's waited so patiently to get his opportunity to score. Rounded off that goal against Chelsea. I think his first Premier League goal since August. So credit to him for remaining patient. Sometimes we groan about how many touches he takes, but took his chance well. Composed finish, prods that over the top of the keeper at Chelsea. Right, James Ward-Prowse is my 3rd nomination. Again, it's so important for the team in the middle of that park, dictating the play, becoming that deep play midfielder, fantastic, threat from corners, from free kicks. And he's played almost every single minute and covered every single blade so far this season. And of course, the final nomination has to be Danny Ings. I guess the record speaks for itself this month. Scored so many goals. 3 in our nominations here, 4 and then 5, in fact, 5 this calendar month. So including the goal against Palace and this first one against Aston Villa, and 12 the entire season so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You've got some really strong candidates there. I think it's so difficult. I mean, I'm almost inclined just to go for Ings because, as you said, the record speaks for itself. But I think the way that he's sort of almost played out his skin compared to sort of struggles he had in the past. I think Jack Stevens, I would probably lean towards him. He's looked a different player since his sort of reintroduction. Although, yeah, he's sort of had the odd wobble. Don't get me wrong. He does look a lot better, and he's been vital in sort of the win at in Chelsea and draw against Palace, and yeah, hopefully he can sort of continue to play like that and cement his place.
I think it's fairly unanimous in the comments.
Yeah, I think we'll
Ings,
start with
Ings, Ings,
Ings.
Ings, Ings. Morgan goes, Stevens comes close. And where do we go? Makiti goes JWP in second. So Danny Ings, player of the month. And I think for us, I think you've gone as far as saying Redmond for the goal of the month, but we'll give the casting vote to our Twitter followers. And Rob says a little left field here outside the box. Stevens, massive improvement. So great improvement all round from everybody. And I think that nicely wraps us up for this week's show. Then a little over time, a little bit late, but hey, we're here, and we've given you, I guess, a bonus for kind of making up for skipping the, I guess, the Chelsea review and the Palace preview. But Dan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thanks for having me.
And I guess if anybody wants to catch up with you, doing the 92, if you like, where's the best place we can follow you at?
Yeah, so that'd be on Twitter. That's at Dan Jarvis SFC 91.
Excellent stuff. Good to have you with us all in the comments, and enjoy the rest of your, I guess, today's evening. Hopefully we see you on New Year's Day, but here's to a happy New Year, Dan.
Yeah, happy New Year and up the Saints, of course.